The music was playing. My new wife was smiling, and my mother stood up in the middle of our first dance and screamed, "You owe me $120,000 for being born!" in front of everyone. So I stopped the song and showed the entire room her bill. I stopped my own first dance. Not because the DJ messed up the song or because someone spilled a drink on the floor or because my new wife stepped on my shoes. I stopped it because my mother stood up in the middle of the reception, pointed at me like I was a defendant in court, and screamed, "You owe me $120,000 for being born." The music didn't even fade out at first. It kept playing for a few seconds, cheerful and oblivious, while every face in the room turned toward us like sunflowers. I remember the exact second my brain tried to protect me by pretending it wasn't real. Because who says that? At a wedding? In front of 100 people? My wife Lena's hand tightened in mine. Not hard, steady, like she was anchoring me to the floor so I wouldn't float out of my own body. My mom, Diane, didn't look embarrassed. She looked energized. She looked like she'd been waiting for her cue. And the worst part is, I wasn't surprised. I'd been bracing for some version of this since the day I got engaged. People who haven't grown up with a mother like mine think entitlement is about money. It's not. Money is just the cleanest way to measure control. My mom has always treated my life like an investment she expected to cash out. My time, my attention, my milestones. She didn't want a son. She wanted a lifelong return. The $120,000 number didn't come out of nowhere. She'd been warming it up for months. Like a grenade in her pocket, she kept patting to make sure it was still there. It started the way it always starts with her. A comment disguised as a joke. A smile with teeth in it. We were at dinner the week after I proposed. Lena's parents were there. My mom insisted on choosing the restaurant. "I just want to celebrate properly," she'd said, like my engagement was her event. Halfway through the meal, she raised her glass and announced, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "I hope you realize you're marrying the reason you exist," she told Lena, pointing at herself. "I did all the hard work." Lena smiled politely, but I felt heat rise up my neck. "Mom," I said quietly. "What?" she laughed. "It's true. 9 months, labor, trauma. You think that's free?" She said free like it was a punchline. Lena's dad coughed awkwardly. Lena's mom stared at her napkin. I apologized with my eyes like I always did. When we got home that night, Lena stood in our kitchen and said, calmly, "Your mom talks about giving birth like you're a subscription service." I laughed because it was absurd. Then I stopped laughing because it wasn't just language. It was a worldview. I'd lived inside that worldview my whole life. My mom loves to tell stories about what she gave up for me. She'll say it at family gatherings, in front of strangers, wherever she can get a reaction. She gave up her youth. She gave up her body. She gave up her dreams. Maybe some of that was true. Parenthood does cost you things. But my mother doesn't talk about sacrifice like it was love. She talks about sacrifice like it was a loan, and she never forgets to add interest. Growing up, anytime I disagreed with her, she'd pull out the ledger. "You know how much your braces cost? You know how much daycare was? You know how hard my life was?" If I wanted privacy, she called it secrecy. If I wanted independence, she called it abandonment. If I wanted boundaries, she called it disrespect. And if I ever had money, she treated it like proof I'd been hoarding resources from her. When I got my first real job out of college, the first thing she asked wasn't how I liked it. It was what the salary was. When I didn't tell her, she got quiet and wounded. "You don't trust your own mother?" she asked, voice trembling like I'd stabbed her. I caved and told her. Within a week, she had a small emergency. Car repairs, rent short, medical bill, something. I paid because I was still under the spell that said her crisis was my responsibility. Then the emergencies became routine. She didn't ask directly at first. She never does. She leads you to it. She sighs dramatically. She mentions stress. She says, "I don't know how I'm going to manage." Then she waits for you to offer. And if you don't offer, that's when the guilt comes out. You've changed. You're selfish. After everything I did for you. Lena saw it immediately. It's easier to spot manipulation when you weren't raised inside it. When I told Lena about my mom's financial pressure over the years, Lena didn't say, "Well, she's your mom." She said, "That's coercion." It felt like hearing a word in a foreign language that you realize describes your whole childhood. The engagement made it worse. Mom didn't like Lena from the start, not because Lena was unkind, because Lena didn't kneel. Lena was polite, but she wasn't deferential. She didn't laugh at Mom's digs. She didn't over-explain. She didn't beg to be liked. That alone made my mom treat her like a threat. A month into planning, my mom started acting like the wedding was a referendum on her importance. She wanted to approve the guest list. She wanted to choose the song for the mother-son dance. She wanted a speech slot right after the best man. She wanted her friends invited, people I hadn't seen since I was 7. When I said no, she didn't argue with logic. She argued with injury. "So I'm not important enough to invite my own friends?" she said, loud on speakerphone as Lena listened. "It's not your wedding," I said. Dead silence. Then my mom laughed softly, in that way she does when she's about to turn the conversation into a weapon. "Oh," she said. "So that's how it is." That night, she texted me a screenshot of a Notes app document. Title: Costs. Under it was a list: pregnancy vitamins, hospital bills, diapers, school supplies. Lost opportunities. At the bottom in all caps, total, $120,000. I stared at my phone until my eyes hurt. Then another text. "Since you can afford a wedding, you can start paying me back." Lena watched my face change. "What is it?" she asked. I handed her my phone. She read it, and her expression didn't shift into shock. It shifted into clarity. "Oh," she said quietly. "She's going to do something at the wedding." I wanted to deny it, but I couldn't. Because my mom doesn't tolerate being ignored. She needs an audience. And weddings? Weddings are the biggest audience you can buy. I tried one last time to handle it privately. I met my mom for coffee. I chose a public place because she behaves better in public. Or at least, she thinks she does. She slid into the booth with a bright smile. "Hi, honey," she said, like she hadn't just sent me an invoice for my existence. "I saw your message," I said. She blinked slowly. "What message?" "The gaslighting was automatic, like breathing. The $120,000, I said. Her smile returned, too sharp. "Oh, that," she said lightly. "It was just to make a point." "What point?" "That you wouldn't be here without me." I held her gaze. "I'm not paying you for being born." Her face tightened, then softened into wounded victim mode. "So I'm not allowed to feel unappreciated?" she asked, voice trembling. "You're allowed to feel whatever you want," I said. "You're not allowed to extort me." Extort. That word made her flinch like I'd slapped her. "I would never extort my own son," she whispered. Then she leaned forward and dropped her voice. "But if you embarrass me at that wedding," she said, "I will embarrass you right back." My stomach went cold. "Are you threatening me?" I asked. She smiled. "I'm warning you," she replied. "And don't act like you don't owe me. I kept you alive." I left that coffee shop with my hands shaking. Not because she'd frightened me physically, because she'd confirmed what Lena already knew. My mom was going to make the wedding about her, one way or another. That's why 3 nights before the wedding, my best man Ethan came over with beer and a laptop, and we built a single PowerPoint slide. Just one, black background, big white text, clean and readable. At the top, the bill. Below it, screenshots of my mom's texts, the Notes app total, the line about paying her back because I could afford a wedding, the threat to embarrass me, dates and timestamps included. Ethan looked at me and said, "If she pulls anything, you end it fast. No yelling, no debate, just show the room what she's doing." Lena agreed. "We are not starting our marriage by paying her ransom," she said. I nodded, but my throat felt tight. Because as much as I wanted to believe I was ready, a part of me was still that kid who thought my mom's approval was oxygen. The wedding day itself went smoothly. Too smoothly. Mom smiled in photos, complimented Lena's dress like she was being generous, hugged relatives, played the loving mother of the groom. If you didn't know her, you'd think she was perfect. But I caught the small things. The way she lingered near the DJ booth. The way she kept asking when the speeches were. The way she corrected people when they called Lena family, like she hated the word in her mouth. At the reception, right before the first dance, she cornered me near the bar. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Are you going to do the right thing tonight?" she asked. "What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about," she said sweetly. My acknowledgement. My skin prickled. "You're not doing this," I said quietly. She tilted her head. "We'll see," she whispered. Then she walked away, blending into the crowd like nothing happened. Lena and I stepped onto the dance floor. The lights dimmed. Our song started. For a moment, it felt like the world narrowed to just us. Her hand in mine, her cheek near mine, her breath steady. Then, halfway through the first verse, a chair scraped hard against the floor. A sharp sound in the quiet. My mom stood up, and the room turned. The music was still playing when she started. Not a gentle interruption, not a polite tap on the DJ's shoulder. She stood up so fast her chair tipped backward and clattered against the hardwood. The sound cut through the song like a gunshot. "Excuse me," she said loudly. No microphone, she didn't need one. My mother has always known how to project. The room didn't fully understand what was happening yet. Some people smiled, thinking maybe it was a surprise speech. A sentimental moment. Lena's hand tightened slightly in mine. I felt it. We both knew. She didn't look at Lena. She looked at me. You owe me $120,000 for being born. The words bounced off the walls. The DJ faltered, then the music kept playing for 2 more confused seconds before dying out awkwardly. The silence that followed wasn't quiet. It was heavy. Someone near the back actually laughed, like it had to be a joke. My mom wasn't laughing. She stepped forward, heels clicking on the floor, and continued like she'd rehearsed this. I carried you for 9 months, she shouted. I destroyed my body. I sacrificed everything. And you're out here throwing a wedding like you don't owe me a dime. A ripple of whispers spread through the room. Lena didn't let go of my hand. She just turned slightly toward me and whispered, You decide. Not, we decide. Not, what do we do? You decide. Because this was my line to draw. My mom scanned the crowd, searching for allies. You all think he's such a good son, she said, voice trembling theatrically. You have no idea how ungrateful he is. There it was, victim mode, public humiliation as leverage. She wasn't just talking to me, she was auditioning for sympathy. Uncle Mark cleared his throat, uncomfortable. My cousin Ashley stared at her lap. A few of Lena's relatives looked like they'd just walked into the wrong theater. You can afford a wedding, Mom went on, pacing slightly now. But you can't afford to pay back the woman who gave you life? Pay back. Like I'd signed something at birth. I felt the old reflex rising, the instinct to calm her, to say, Mom, not now, to try to escort her quietly outside and handle it in private. But private is where she wins. Private is where there are no witnesses. She wanted the crowd, so she got it. I leaned toward the DJ and said calmly, Cut it. He looked at me, eyes wide. Cut everything, I repeated. The lights didn't change. The room didn't shift. It just froze. I took the microphone from its stand. For a second, my hands were shaking. Then I looked at Lena. She gave me a single nod. That steadied me. Mom, I said into the mic, voice even, you've made your point. She lifted her chin like she'd won something. I'm glad, she replied loudly, because someone needed to say it. You're right, I said. That confused her. I do owe someone tonight. She blinked. I owe my wife a peaceful wedding. The room shifted slightly. People straightened. My mom's face tightened. This isn't about her, she snapped. It is now, I said. I handed the mic briefly to Ethan, who walked to the projector setup without hesitation. We had tested this twice during rehearsal, just in case. The screen behind us flickered to life. Black background, white letters, the bill. There was an audible intake of breath across the room. My mom turned around slowly. Her shoulders stiffened. What is this? She demanded. Since we're discussing finances publicly, I said calmly into the mic, let's discuss them accurately. The first screenshot appeared, her message. You can afford a wedding, you can afford to start paying me back. Date, timestamp. Murmurs started immediately. Another slide, the notes app list, pregnancy vitamins, hospital bills, lost opportunities. Total, $120,000. Someone near the front actually said, oh my God. My mom's face flushed crimson. You invaded my privacy, she shouted. You sent these to me, I replied, multiple times. Another screenshot, her words at the coffee shop. If you embarrass me at that wedding, I will embarrass you right back. The room went very still. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't emotional overflow. This was premeditated. My mom's eyes darted around the room, searching for support. This is out of context, she cried. Then give us the context, I said. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. She tried again. You don't understand what I sacrificed, she said finally, voice cracking. I understand perfectly, I replied. You chose to have a child. Gasps. You don't get to invoice me for existing. Silence, heavy, real. The kind of silence that only comes when everyone sees the same truth at the same time. My mom's voice shifted from rage to tears in a heartbeat. I just wanted acknowledgement, she sobbed. Is that so wrong? There it was. The pivot. She wasn't extorting. She was unappreciated. She wasn't demanding money. She was hurting. I lowered the mic slightly but didn't drop it. You wanted payment, I said evenly. Not acknowledgement. That's not fair. Neither is threatening to humiliate your son at his wedding unless he transfers you money. The words landed harder because I wasn't yelling. I wasn't angry. I was done. Uncle Mark stood up slowly. Diane, he said carefully. Did you really send those? She rounded on him instantly. Don't you start! That tone, the one that's worked on people for decades. But tonight she didn't have a living room. She had witnesses. Lena finally stepped forward beside me. Diane, she said calmly, this is our wedding. If you cannot respect that, you need to leave. Not a scream, not a threat, a boundary. My mom looked at her like she'd just been dethroned. You've poisoned him against me, she spat. Lena didn't flinch. He's choosing himself. That's when my mom snapped. You think you've won? She shouted. He will regret this when I'm gone. That line, the nuclear option, mortality as guilt. I raised the mic again. I will not be blackmailed with your existence, I said. You could feel the room shift. Because that wasn't just about money anymore. It was about control. And it was over. Security, Ethan said quietly from the side. The venue manager, who'd been hovering near the entrance, stepped forward. My mom stared at him in disbelief. You would throw your own mother out? She demanded. I met her eyes. Yes. The word echoed in my chest. Not cruel, not triumphant, clear. Her mouth opened again, but this time no performance came out. Just anger, raw and unfiltered. This isn't over, she hissed. It is, I said. The manager gently guided her toward the exit. She didn't go quietly. She muttered about betrayal, about ungrateful children, about being disrespected. But the audience had shifted. The sympathy she came for wasn't there. The door closed, and for the first time all night, the room felt breathable. I looked at Lena. Her eyes were steady. Are you okay? She asked softly. I exhaled. Yes. And for the first time in my life, that answer wasn't a lie. The door closed behind her, and for a few seconds nobody moved. It wasn't awkward. It was stunned, like the room had just watched a magic trick in reverse and realized how it worked. I stood there with the microphone still in my hand, heart pounding hard enough that I could feel it in my throat. For years I'd imagined confronting my mom. In my head it was dramatic, cathartic, maybe even cinematic. In reality it felt quiet, not peaceful, but steady. I turned to the DJ. Start it again, I said. He hesitated for half a beat, then nodded. The music restarted from the beginning of our first dance. The same opening notes. But it felt different now. Lena stepped closer to me. You didn't yell, she said softly. I didn't need to. We began to move again, and this time I wasn't bracing for an interruption. I wasn't scanning the room for danger. I was present, truly present. Around us, people slowly began clapping. Not loud, not performative, just supportive. My Aunt Renee caught my eye and mouthed, Good. Ethan gave me a small nod from across the room. Nobody mentioned my mom's name. Nobody tried to chase her. Nobody asked me to apologize. That was new. The rest of the reception unfolded almost peacefully. People relaxed once they realized the storm had passed. There was laughter again. Real laughter. The tension that had hovered all evening lifted like someone had cracked a window. And I felt something unfamiliar settle in my chest. Relief. After the cake was cut and the bouquet tossed and the lights started dimming for the last slow song, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I knew it was her. I ignored it. It buzzed again, ignored. A voicemail notification appeared. I didn't listen to it until 2 days later. We were in our hotel room after the honeymoon brunch, still half drunk on exhaustion and champagne. I put the phone on speaker. Her voice came through sharp and trembling. You humiliated me, she said. After everything I've done for you. There was no apology in her tone, no self-reflection, just injury. I was trying to teach you gratitude, she continued. You made me look insane. Lena looked at me carefully. I felt a strange clarity. You made yourself look insane, I said quietly to the empty room. I deleted the voicemail, and then I did something that would have felt impossible a year ago. I blocked her number. I blocked her on social media. I removed her from the shared photo album the photographer had created. No announcement, no dramatic message. Just a boundary. The next few days were interesting. A few extended relatives reached out. Your mom is devastated. I think you went too far. She didn't mean it like that. Every single one of them got the same response from me. She demanded money to attend my wedding, in public. I responded with the truth. No elaboration, no apology. Some of them went quiet after that. A few doubled down. I blocked them too. What surprised me most was my dad. He'd been silent most of my life, silent at arguments. Silent at emotional explosions, silent when she weaponized guilt. 3 days after the wedding, he called. I should have stepped in sooner, he said. It was the first time I'd ever heard him say that about anything involving her. I didn't comfort him. I didn't absolve him. I just said, you can step in now. He was quiet for a long time. I don't know how, he admitted. And for the first time, I realized something. My mom's power didn't just come from her volume. It came from everyone else choosing silence. The weeks after the wedding were strangely calm. No surprise visits, no emergency texts, no emotional hostage situations. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. It didn't, because I'd taken the shoe away. About a month later, an envelope arrived at our apartment. No return address. Inside was a folded piece of paper, typed. You will regret turning your back on your mother. No signature, no warmth, just threat. I stared at it for a long time. Then I shredded it. Not because I wasn't hurt, because I was done being intimidated. Lena found me standing in the kitchen afterward. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded slowly. "I think I just realized something," I said. "What?" She thought she was punishing me. And? She was freeing me. That was the truth of it. For years I'd been negotiating, trying to keep both worlds intact, trying to be a good son and an independent adult, trying to avoid scenes. But you can't negotiate with someone who believes they own you. You can only step out of reach. Do I miss the version of her I used to hope existed? Yes, that's the part nobody talks about. Cutting off a parent, even a toxic one, is still a loss. You grieve the mother you wish you had. The one who would have cried happy tears at your wedding instead of calculating interest, but I don't miss the control. I don't miss the constant scanning for emotional landmines. I don't miss the feeling that love came with a ledger. My wedding photos are beautiful. In every single one, Lena and I are laughing. There's one frame the photographer captured that I didn't even notice at the time, right after the music restarted, right after my mom had been escorted out. I'm holding Lena, and I'm smiling. Not politely, not nervously, fully. It's the first photo in my life where I don't look like I'm bracing. That's the real ending. Not the slide, not the mic drop, not the escort. The ending is this. I didn't pay the invoice, and I didn't inherit the debt. If someone demands repayment for your existence, they don't want love. They want ownership, and I am not for sale. She wanted payment. She wanted control. She wanted the room on her side. Instead, she got a projector screen and an audience that finally saw the truth. The music started again. She wasn't there for it, and neither is she in my life anymore.